Evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live podcast on your favorite football update channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Saturday night, the 9th of May, 2026. It's exactly 13 minutes past the hour of it's exactly 13 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. that we do come to you live from Kampala, Uganda, to get another conversation about football going. It's been a very, very action-packed weekend thus far. Some disappointments, some expectations met, some perfect score predictions, among other things as you may think of them. So a lot of that has been going around in as far as the weekend is concerned, but it is yet to be concluded. It's far from it. The big parties are on tomorrow, and then of course we have some talking points from the game between Brentford and Manchester City as they thumped Brentford by 3 goals to nil to close the gap on Arsenal, both in terms of points difference as well as goal difference. So they are firing on all cylinders, and we'll be talking about that. But the game in itself wasn't free from any controversy because there were some penalty shoutouts in that game that were worth discussing. Nonetheless, none was given. And should any have been given, chances are it should have culminated into a red card, possibly for Manchester City. So we'll get to discuss that and the implications of it in as far as this podcast is concerned. We'll get to hear what your thoughts were for that on that particular front or in that particular regard. But I think, okay, as far as our audios are concerned, I think we are good to go. Nothing much is being interrupted. Okay. Anyways, as we wait for the others to join us, I have a couple of things to put away briefly. Manchester United fans, were you impressed with the performance? Were you disappointed? Were you okay with the performance? Either you are happy with the performance, you're disappointed, or you are cool with it. Which was it? Let me know down in the comment section. So for those of you that are just joining us, my name is Robert Kesakos. As your usual suspect, welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. It's 15 minutes past 11 p.m. here in Kampala, Uganda. It's been a bit of a cold evening following a slight downpour in the afternoon hours prior to the kickoff of the Chelsea game. For those of you that are Ugandans will know what happened. It didn't rain all over the place, but at least in some parts of Kampala. Nevertheless, it is okay for us here. Guys, so tonight we'll be talking about Manchester City, and among other things. Of course, they take the talking points because of the context of the Premier League title race. It's very, very pivotal. But also in the Spanish La Liga, where you have as many as 8 teams under the threat of relegation, we'll have maybe a word out there if time does allow us, because Sevilla left it late to make sure that they brighten their chances of avoiding relegation in as far as this season is concerned. So there's a lot of things for us to touch on there. They managed to beat Espanyol by 2 goals to 1. But before we get to all that of what happened in Spain, let's start with the Premier League, because that is where just is this evening. Manchester City managed to overcome Brentford, beating them by 3 goals to nil. Goals from Jeremy Doku, Brad Erling Haaland, and Omar Mamouche, a second-half substitute, were enough to see Manchester City back to winning ways after their stumble midway last week when they shared the spoils with Everton in a 3-3 draw. Jeremy Doku scoring a brace in that game as well, while Brad Erling Haaland was the other on target for the citizens during their preliminary visit or their inaugural visit to the Hill Dixon Stadium over there. We have Nathan. Hi, Nathan. Good to have you on the channel. I hope you're doing okay. So now, the game felt dull for about an hour. Dull in the sense of chances just did not fall in place. Manchester City attacking wise, felt threatening. But you never felt like they were so close to scoring. Maybe there's that one moment where Brad Erling Haaland's opportunity was fumbled in the area. I think it fell to Nathan Aki's legs, but Carmen Kelleher was there to gather the ball. That was one of those moments. But then Haaland had fired blanks with two of his headers. Then the other was on target, but it was a routine save for Kelleher and things like that. So you felt that the longer the game went on, and by the way, I thought that Brentford in the opening 20 minutes, they had some moments that could have gone their way. They looked better, but they could not capitalize or they could not make it count. And even when we returned for the second half, you felt that they were still well into the game, were still well into it. But chances fell far between. They never created any real chances to trouble Manchester City. Megan, hi. Is it Megan or Megan? Excuse my mispronunciation, if any, please, because I'm used to the Megan of Meghan, something like that. And this one is Megn. So is it Megan or Megan still? Sometimes words retain the same pronunciation, even when the spelling may differ. And then we have Nain. Nain says hi. Hi, Nain. So the game in itself felt that way. You felt that chances were not falling in place. Really, Manchester City had a total of 25 shots on goal. They had 10 on target. But out of those 10, you never felt a particular moment where Kelleher was scrambling to make a save that he had been really, really threatened. Those routine, shot attempts on target that he gathered easily until the 60th minute when Jeremy Doku was accommodated to the space to conjure out something. It's a set piece play that they start shortly. There's a bit of lapse in concentration in that backline or the defensive duties of Brentford. One of the Brentford players has a loose touch of the ball inside the box, and it falls back to Jeremy Doku, and he fires it into the far corner, just pretty much like he did for his first goal. Actually, for his second goal, for his first and second goal against Everton, all goals have a certain level of similarity. So it felt like a routine goal, even though there's nothing routine about it for Jeremy Doku, because that's his 50th goal of the campaign. And he got the other two against Brentford. He's one of those players I often describe as idle busy. Now, when I describe him as such, it's not to mean disrespect, but there's a lack of consistency about his delivery. He's the same player for me like Noni Madueke is. They're good players. Naturally, they have the talent. They can dribble. They show you that they're very active in the game, but usually their end product is not as good as you'd want to have it. So that's why he now has a 10-goal contribution across the campaign. And I think that was his 30th game of the season in as far as the Premier League is concerned. He scored 5 goals and provided 5 assists. A reluctant gamer says, brother, I'm in trouble. You're not in any trouble. You're not in any trouble. It was simply a perfect score for bet and prediction between between Liverpool and Chelsea. So I gather to you £5 is pocket change. So, it's as simple as that. It is as simple as that. So anyways, the game felt pretty much like that. And even when Manchester City scored, yes, they were always on the front foot. You got the prediction right. Yes. Even when Manchester City scored, it sort of never felt like they were suddenly going to turn the game on its head and begin converting their overall dominancy into goals. El Clasico tomorrow, that's Ash. Yes, the El Clasico is on tomorrow. We'll get to discuss it. Reluctant Gamer has come through. Thank you so much for the super chat. Much appreciated, really. Rio Dandy. Yes, Rio Dandy. You're supposed to cross-check on our missed super chat. The payment was reversed. I don't know how that is gone. Ash says, what are your predictions for the El Clasico? Barcelona will win. That's the response you get from Reluctant Gamer. Ash, please indulge me as I go through the Manchester City game, and then we'll get to the El Clasico. It's an unavoidable topic that we cannot skip in the context of this broadcast, given what's to come tomorrow at 10 p.m. East African time. So, back to wrap up the Manchester City conversation. So, even when they took that 1-0 lead, they were dominant with the ball. They were creating the chances, but they were not clear-cut chances where you say, "Oh, this was the near miss," or "That was that." It felt like routine chances that you'd have in the game. So they dominated possession to the tune of about 59% compared to 41% of Brentford. Visca Baka, you've super chatted us with, is that 100 what? Is that Indian rupees? Reluctant Gamer says, wow, Ash, haha, I thought you'd do that. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, really, guys. Your Reluctant Gamer is the third person to super chat me on this channel. Ash is the fourth person to super chat me on this channel. The first one was Jesus. Jesus Y815, and another was a lady called Anne. So thank you so much. That's the currency for us, brother. Okay, much appreciated, much appreciated. Really, really, thank you so much for the kind gesture. The Reluctant Gamer, thank you so much for coming through. I've made a couple of bets with people here, and they made promises that they never lived up to, but you honored your end of the bargain. So thank you so much. Much appreciated. Hala Madrid, I think I've seen your comment somewhere. Then we have main edits says Hala Madrid. Hala Madrid. Now, guys, you have main edits in the comment section. Please have a chat with Ash. He's a Barcelona fan, as we go through the Manchester City game in regards to what you think. What is your prediction, main, for Madrid away to Barcelona? Do you think they'll get that? 100 rupees is 7.7 pounds. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, really. I watched the City game first. Half was boring. Exactly. That's what I was saying, that it did not have much to it. Yes, Manchester City had a couple of chances here and there, but you never felt that they came close to really scoring, that they were really threatening. Apart from that ball that was fumbled in the area, Brad Erling Haaland got attached to it, and then it fell in the path of Nathan Ake. But as he tried to put his leg to it, Kelleher gathered it, and so the first half was basically that. And then we came to the second half, and a lot of the attempts on goal for Manchester City in the first half, you felt that some of them were a result of a bit of pressure and anxiety and a little bit of desperation of wanting to get that goal in the game that gives you the momentum to get going. And I was saying this, that when Manchester City finally get that goal, they needed to add on the second to feel more comfortable in the game, because when you score one goal and it goes a long period of time before you find the second, it can easily become a bit nervous. So, or it can become a bit more tense, depending on how the opposition is responding to that, to you taking the lead. So, but luckily for them, it never really felt like that. But in that very first half, we had a key moment in the game where Kevin Schade is going through, and Matthias Nunes makes contact with him. I think it was Matthias Nunes, and he goes down in the box. And we thought, oh my God, could this be a penalty? And if it were to be a penalty, it could have culminated into a red card for Manchester City. But the referee waved it off. I reviewed the incident, or I had the opportunity to watch the incident, and it was a bit 50-50, in my humble opinion. If he had given it, we wouldn't have qualms about it. Now that he did not give it, I'm not going to pick a bone about it that much. But there's a particular similar incident in the second half where I think, again, it was Nunes the culprit or somebody else, but a Man City defender who pushes Kevin Schade as he runs onto a ball that is coming through the box and he hits the ground. And that one I found very suspicious. First of all, in the same game, we had Nico O'Reilly push Michael Kayode as he ran after the ball. You know, when you're chasing the ball and then it goes out. But before it goes out, he sort of pushes him into the advertising boards. And it looked bad. And I said, okay, that's not necessary. I mean, you've already forced him to concede that the ball is going out. Why then do you think you have to push him? So, and then I thought that was questionable. He should have gotten a booking for that. But then it wasn't given. Then in the same game, he pulls Dango Ouattara. Then he gets a yellow card. Imagine if he had gotten the other booking. Could have been a red card for him. So there are possibilities where Manchester City could have gotten red cards in that game. Leighton, hello, hi Leighton. That's the currency for us, brother. Okay. Hala Madrid. Okay. Okay. Reluctant Gamer says, yeah, Ash was boring. First half, City kept pushing. There are players out of frustration. Okay, Arsenal game, I will definitely watch. That's Reluctant Gamer. Ash says, I started watching Messi's game mid-March and surprising. MLS was interesting than this game. I completely understand. Ash says, if Arsenal beats West Ham, it's done. It may not be that simple. I mean, you see, there's a lot of anxiety amongst Arsenal fans, but they need to get through that game. But it is a must win for them. There's no two ways about it, because if they were to draw points, then they would give Manchester City, they will put the title race back into Man City's hands when they have that game in hand that they have to play against Crystal Palace midweek. So they wouldn't want to do that. Okay, imagine they lose points to Burnley. That be embarrassing. Yeah, that would be obviously embarrassing. I mean, you wouldn't be worthy to be a champion if you're going to go and lose draw points against Burnley, who are already relegated in the second last game of the season. There wouldn't be any excuse for that. Marcelo says, hi, I'm back. Sorry, I was on holiday. Hope you had a wonderful holiday and welcome back from your holiday. Ash says, yeah, that first push was a yellow. To be fair, okay, that's what I thought too. Lashgush says we need to win tomorrow. If we win Premier League, will give us a great confidence in the final. Let's not bother this one. Exactly. Arsenal need to win the Premier League if they need as a confidence booster, also going into the UEFA Champions League final. Then you say, I see Arsenal winning the Premier League, but beating this PSG as will be the toughest game of Arteta's life. Well, before he gets to the toughest game of his life, he will first have 2 or 3 tests to go through against West Ham, Burnley, and subsequently Crystal Palace. Reluctant Gamer says, if they beat PSG also, they're going to win some respect. The haters will be will be in quite for time. Okay, so we'll digest all those comments to their full detail when let's wrap up this Manchester City game. So in the second half, they looked much better. But still, again, those opening 15 minutes of the second half, you again felt that there's a bit of a dullness and slowness to the game in the way it went about. It never felt like the game was fast enough, in the way. And then in some moments, Brentford tried to build from the back, and you could see that they're being too risky because Manchester City is one of the teams that are really, really good at the counter press, especially when you're trying to build the ball from out of the back. So they took some risks, and at one point it nearly, they almost paid the ultimate price. And then there's one moment in the second half, I think, was it Dango Ouattara? He did a back pass, and it was so close to Brad Erling Haaland. He almost intercepted that. So they took some risky chances. But nonetheless, then Jeremy Doku scored, and then 15 minutes later, there's a fumbled ball in the area because somebody failed to close down Antoine Semenyo wanting to avoid fouling him in the area, so they allowed him to make the cutback in the area. It was a bit chaotic, but Brad Erling Haaland found a way to backhill it, and it sort of shriveled through a heap of legs and hit the back of the net, and it was 2-0. And once that second goal went in, you felt that the game was as good as done. It felt like over. There's no way back for them. And then eventually, in the stoppage time, Omar Mamush puts the icing on the cake with that third goal of the night. But particularly, I wanted to go back to the Kevin Shada moment where he's shoved or pushed in the area. And somebody tried to say, no, the ball was already beyond, like he was ahead of the ball, so he was never going to get to it. But that's not the case, He's running towards as the ball is coming across, and it gets nudged in the back and it hits the floor. Now, here's the thing. Oftentimes, the one thing we question is contact, the amount of contact, the gravity or the magnitude of the contact. Now, first of all, contact in itself is subjective, because the person that feels the contact is the person that can define how much they felt of that contact, first of all. So that's the biggest issue. Now, but in the context of the game itself, you felt that should have been a penalty. And because he was last man, it should have been a red card as well, possibly. But maybe the referee gives a yellow card and that was a penalty. But for me, it felt like a no-brainer. And it was a huge let-off for Manchester City when that incident happens. What I do not remember particularly is the actual moment of the incident when it happens, whether Man City had scored or yet to score. But I think they had scored the first goal. I stand to be corrected. I'm trying so much to reflect on the exactness of the moment when it comes. If any of you does recall it more glaringly than I do, please let me know down in the comment section. Okay, Okay. Ash said, yeah, to silence the haters, Arteta needs to beat Lucho, else the haters will double up. Okay. Lashgood says, I mean, it's a final. PSG won't score that easy. We have the best defense in Europe. I believe in Arteta. Well, sometimes it gets obliterated. The best defense versus the relentless attack is going to be a field day out there. Edit Salam says PSG easily gonna win that. Okay. Best way Arsenal beat PSG, defend and counter-attack. That's reluctant gamers suggestion. I'm loving the chat room. I'm loving the exchanges you guys are having as I go through the Manchester City game, but be sure I will not skip a comment. Edit, they should win at least. They play much better and much more entertaining. Ash says, but defending against a trio of Doe, Dembele, and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, yeah, that can take a toll on you. That's why a lot of Arsenal fans are praying that maybe Jurriën Timber somehow, somewhere returns before the final. But the question is, if he does return before the final, will he be fit enough to, give you what you expect of him? Because he's good in 1v1 situations defensively, and that physicality that he brings to the game. Lashkush says, just need Declan Rice free kicks in the final, like versus Real Madrid. I think, Lashkush, there will be a lot of Arsenal fans that will be praying for for a key moment like that. Maybe set pieces save the day that they get a corner, Gabriel is at the top of it, and something unique, something that is almost a special moment in a way, that kind of thing. A lot of people will be praying for that. Amando says, glory, glory, Manchester United. Glory, glory, Manchester United. United at the Reds go on marching on. Thank you so much, Amando, for that. But I did pose a question earlier on to Manchester United fans. Were you pleased with your performance? Or you happy to take the result? What was your observation in that goalless draw against Sunderland? I felt United, but I would also understand, because like I'd said in the preview for that game, he needed to some changes of faces. I expected some, like Mason Mount, and he did start in that midfield. Just make sure it doesn't end like Inter last year. I don't think it will come to that. I think Arteta will be desperate to avoid the embarrassment, even if he were to lose the final. Ash says Arsenal score and defend, but the main test will be if PSG score fast, will the team be able to keep their heads high? Because if you are mentally down, Lucho will eat you alive. You couldn't have said it any better. So, anyways, so guys, anybody remembers that particular moment of Kevin Schade in the second half? Does it come before Man City score or after Manchester City have scored? Because, or was it when it was still 1-0? Either it was before they scored or after they had gone 1-0 up. It felt like such a key moment in the game that could have turned the game on its head. And it felt blunt. And first of all, I was taken aback that the referee who was in proximity did not even blow his whistle first time. And then it goes to VAR, they review it and pass it. And I'm thinking to myself, really? First of all, for somebody that that was back from watching the Manchester United game, and I saw Matthias Cunha being booked for diving in the area, wanting to win his team a penalty, especially late on in the game, I was thinking to myself, if you judge that he's not been fouled, therefore he's dived to try and hoodwink the referee into giving him a penalty, therefore it should be a yellow card for him. But he does not call him out on that. So then he basically plays it on like nothing has happened. And I'm thinking to myself, in what world is that even plausible? In what world is that even possible? It felt like such a huge let-off. And I've been picking on a little bit of online chatter, and a lot of people have questioned it for what it is. Of course, Keith Andrews has questioned it. I've seen some comments attributed to Aaron Shearer questioning it. A lot of people were surprised. But you see, this reminds me the Gabriel Maguire's incident in the Arsenal game that they won by 2-1. That they were calling for a red card for Gabriel Maguire's. It also takes me back to that 2-2 draw between that game between Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City that ended in a 2-2 draw. You remember when who was it? Somebody was fouled. I think it was Mark Cui who was fouled in the build-up to one of those goals. And in the aftermath of the game, Rodri said the referee was not neutral. Now, I go back to that moment and I borrow the words I used at that time, that if you come seeking equity, you must come with clean hands. Manchester City have had their fair share of misgivings in terms of bad officiating because it's not immune to one team or the other. But every time they come out, I'm often quick to remember that, come on, guys, you do not have clean hands. Just the other day, ABCD happened. And all sorts of things will be brought out. I do remember, I think this was one of the COVID seasons. You remember that game between Arsenal and Wolverhampton Wanderers when David Luiz was running behind, was it Neto or somebody? And then, as he's running behind him, Neto's hind heel clips David Luiz's knee. But David Luiz is judged to have fouled a Wolves player, and therefore it's a straight red card and a penalty for denying a clear and obvious, goal scoring opportunity. Then you go back to today and say, okay, the context of the foul is different, but it's a goal scoring opportunity for Kevin Schade. Where's this all? And also because of the context of the game, the Premier League title race, and where Manchester City find themselves. It's all questionable. It's all questionable. We can only ask the questions. We do not have the answers. Somebody asked a funny question. It was banter, but given the moment, I understand where they're coming from. Their question was, Manchester City and Pidgemal need to tell us who is running who. Very funny, very funny. But in all fairness, it felt like because in the first incident, Matthias Nunes pushes Kevin Schade. In the second incident, it's the same thing. 2 fouls, no penalty given. And if a penalty is given, at least a red card is given. But they are Manchester City, so nothing happened. Nothing happened. And somehow, we're supposed to let it go. We've been having a conversation during the course of this week. But before I get into what that conversation has been, let me first read some of your comments. City looks too nonchalant for their situation. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce your name because it appears like it's been written in Israeli language. I don't even know what language that is. You say, what's your prediction for Arsenal tomorrow? Reluctant Gamer says, I think Arsenal 3-0 West Ham. Wow. The Arsenal fan in me is nervous about that game. The football fan in me, objectively, thinks that Arsenal will have to grind it out. They could win 2-0 or 2-1. As says, I think it will be 2-0 or 2-1 win. That's where I also think it lands. That's where I think it lands as well. But we'll have to wait and see. So you guys, what do you think? Should any of those have been a penalty and a red card, or the referee was right? Should VAR have intervened? Or, you see, the thing about VAR is that when we do not see them actively intervene, sometimes we assume they've not intervened. Sometimes they've intervened, but have judged that the referee has made the right decision, so there's no more need for action. But I felt today, at least in one of those incidents, the referee should have been called to the pitchside monitor, at least. Now, I give the referee the benefit of that too. Have not seen it clearly. And therefore, that's why we would then recommend a pitchside review. That's why we have VAR to say, maybe you did not have a good look at this. You're human, and it happened in a snap of a second. So please go to the pitchside monitor and review the case, and then decide whether you stand by your on-field decision or you make an otherwise decision. The one thing I have trouble with referees is that a lot of them seem to be in a preposition that when you're sent to the monitor, it necessarily means change your decision or your mind. That for me shouldn't be the case. You can't still go to the monitor and say, based on my interpretation of the incident, this is what I saw, this is why I judged it as such, therefore my on-field decision stands. Or you say, I think I missed something, let me change my decision. And in recent times, I've made 2 references. You go back to the way VAR was used in the Africa Cup of Nations 2023 that was played in 2024 in Ivory Coast. Good point of reference. Then, particularly this season in the Premier League, you go back to the game between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Manchester City. I think it was at the Etihad Stadium. You remember that handball by Mosquera. I forget his second name. Mosquera in the area. I think it was Rancheki trying to sort of flip the ball off of him. And the ball hit part of his body before it hit his arm. And the referee said, no penalty. That was, he's called Halam. Oh, I'm forgetting the other name. Farai Haram. Yes, Farai Haram was the referee. He gets called by VAR to the pitchside monitor and he stands by his decision. I'm sure somebody in that VAR room was desperately trying to convince him otherwise. You know, but I think he made the right decision. Okay, City was winning. Referee corrupt. That's a reluctant gamer. Ash says City was winning anyway. Bro, let's forget about the referee. I'm already tired talking about refereeing decisions across all leagues this season. I know it can be very exhausting. And yet, you see, like I was making reference to the conversation we were having this week. The ugly thing about bad decisions in the game is that you never get to revisit the result. I'll give you an example. If, let's say, you wrongly awarded a red card and then you end up losing the game, once that red card is rescinded, they never say, go back and replay that match because this was wrongly given. It never changes the result. And that's the ugly thing about some of this. Now, because that is the fact of the nature of the sport, I'm always questioning, do Premier League referees go back and review their own moments, other people's moments, and key moments from the weekend to learn and say, these are the rules, this should be the interpretation of it. Lagush is predicting Arsenal will win by 0-0 against West Ham. Do they constantly reorient themselves, not just about the rules, but also the interpretation to have a certain level of consistency? Because circumstances can be different, but we've seen similar incidents being penalized in different manners or not penalized at all. And that level of inconsistency is why you have fans always discussing the quality of officiation of the game. Today, it's a Manchester United complaining about a denied penalty. They are 2-2 draw against FC Bournemouth. Today, it's Brentford. Tomorrow, it will be Arsenal. On another day, it's Chelsea. Like that. Another day, it's Liverpool. You know, you remember the Benjamin Sesko goal in Manchester United 3-2 defeat over Liverpool, where his fingers appear to scrape the ball before it hits the back of the net. So, across the entirety of the campaign, everybody gets their fair share. Some get it handed to them more than others. But the ugly thing is that the result will always stand, regardless of what happens, regardless of how wrong the referee was. And it's a painful fact. Okay, let's soldier on. So, anyway, in Man City winning, it means that they have closed down on the gap of points from 5 points to 3 points. Sorry, to only 2 points. Both teams have played 35 games. Of course, Arsenal play tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. But Manchester City will also play on Wednesday their game in hand against Crystal Palace. So please bear that in mind. Then, in terms of goal difference, Arsenal had a positive 41, and Manchester City have improved theirs to a positive 40. But now, Manchester City have scored 5 goals more than Arsenal have scored. So that is a key context. Because remember, if goal difference is square, we then go to who has scored the most number of goals. That's why that is the key part, if the points are level. So Arsenal have no leg to stand on in terms of sleeping. They don't have any leg to stand on. Okay. I got free bananas today. Lucky for you, Steve Bano. Steve Bano is a regular, semi-regular follower of this channel. Although every time he comes on here, he never says anything about football apart from the cost of bananas on the market. Okay. Lagush says Arsenal won, West Ham nil. Nuno Mendes didn't get a red card against Bayern, but if it was a Barca player, we would get a red card. Now, again, today somebody shared a clip of one of those moments from the Man City game, and they said, oh, if this is Barcelona, it's definitely a red card. Anyways, Barcelona have also had their painful parts or have received their fair share of average football officiation. Varane Chaka says, Rabada? Do you mean Rabadaba? Hi, how are you? Okay, so you have that anyways. In other words, what you get is that. What you get is simply that. Inconsistencies. So let's move on to the Arsenal game, and then after the Arsenal game, we'll move to the El Clasico. Agree to disagree? Football players eat bananas for energy. I understand, but seldom do we talk about players dieting here. We often talk about what happens on and off the pitch in the context of the direct impact of the game. Never have we discussed their diet. But thank you so much for pointing that out. Anyways, so Arsenal versus West Ham, like I said, my prediction, I'm going to close my eyes. I don't know. Do Arsenal get to keep a clean sheet? I just don't feel it in me that they get to keep a clean sheet. I just don't see it happening. It is possible it can happen, but something feels odd about this game. And when you look at us, I'll go to one, Arsenal. I'll go to one. After all, it's not a bet, so it's not like I'll have lost the bet if I get the correct the perfect score prediction incorrect, you know. But that's the prediction. Okay, I see a 2-1, but who is gonna score the second that matters? I do not know. I do not know who is going to start this game because, first of all, it's been such a very pivotal week for Arsenal. You look at the same team that started against Fulham is the same team that started in that game against Atletico de Madrid. Do you anticipate it is going to be the same case when he calls his team out tomorrow when they walk out? Or do you suspect he's going to bring in some fresh legs to say, yeah, you've had a good run in over the last 2 games, you need to sit this one out? You know, I'd love Carafiori to start this game. He offers Arsenal a lot going forward. But that will depend on the midfield selection. You know, it will depend on the midfield selection that he does make. Okay. Somebody is called Senu Senu. Oh, is that how you pronounce your name? Senu Senu says, what happened to Real Madrid? Well, we're going to discuss them in a bit. Kindly sit around. Ash says they are signing up for UFC. Who did wrong? Hello, this is SSB. SSB says Arsenal need a goal and then rest. And then rest easy. No. By the way, if Arsenal have the opportunity to go for the killing in that game, remember in their last 2 visits to the London Stadium, they scored 11 goals and conceded only 2. One of them being a 6-0 victory, and that was it last season? And then the season prior, they won there by 5 goals to 2. So they need that kind of squad line. Imagine if they went to West Ham and put 6 past them, because they need it for their goal squad, their positive goal difference, and things like that. You know, they need it all. So many sent Valverde to see the stars. Anyways, so now here's what you should expect. Of course, David Raya in goal. I expect we could see Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba. Ben White, although some people think it should be the fresh legs of Christian Mosquera, I do not know. I'd rather Ricardo Carafiori starts. Then the midfield becomes Declan Rice. Maz Luis Kelly has not pressed the foot wrong. Do you get to start him, or you bring back Martin Zubimendi alongside Martin Odegaard? Now, the thing about Maz Luis Kelly, you know that thing he does to protect the ball, where he uses his body in sort of shielding the ball. Oftentimes he's done that. Sometimes he's gotten away with it. Sometimes he's not. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And when you're playing an away game, it's always a huge risk to take. It's a huge risk to take. And remember, usually a home team gets certain advantages when certain fouls or minor decisions are waved away. So maybe you do not want to risk that. But one, Arsenal will need to be dominant on the ball, but also dominant with intent. It should be taking that ball forward, because if they try to retreat to their old self or playing cautious and keeping it within their own half and things like that, West Ham could nick it on you. And remember, they are under the threat of relegation, so their life depends on it as well. So it's such an important game for them. So then the midfield, if you drop, I don't know for this one. I like Maz Luis Kelly because every time he picks the ball, he's oftentimes forward thinking. He wants to drive the ball forward, make that forward pass. Yet, oftentimes you feel Martin Zubimendi wants to play it safe. give it to the next person, play it backwards, that kind of thing. But he's been rested for the last 2 games. Of course, he's featured eventually coming off the bench, but largely he's rested it a bit out. Do you bring him as a fresh pair of legs alongside Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, and then you push Eberechi Eze to the left wing and have Bukayo Saka to the right and Victor Gyökeres? That's something to think about. But if you go for that, given how Eze's ball tracking is not that good, then you could be better off playing Piero Hincapi in your left back so that you're very solid defensively in that left back position, because then you know what you lose in not having Ricardo Carafiori. But if you're going to play Eze, who is sometimes going to dart into the behind Victor Gyökeres to create those overloads, I don't know. It's a bit of a difficult one. I don't know if Mikel Arteta will be obsessing over the starting lineup, but I expect Victor Gyökeres to start, Bukayo Saka to start, Declan Rice to be in that game, and that's fine. But I do anticipate that from the team that started against Fulham and the same team that started against Atletico Madrid, I suspect we could see one or 2 or 3 changes in that starting 11. I think we will see something out of that. Then on the side of West Ham, now I think it would be odd if they came to play a conservative game, because the most important statistic of the game is that goal. It's what earns you the 3 points. It's what earns you those much needed 3 points. Therefore, expect to see maybe Mads Hermansen in goal, Kyle Walker-Peters, Konstantinos Mavropanos, former Arsenal defender who left and joined Stuttgart before he joined West Ham, Axel Disasi on loan from Chelsea, Malik Diouf, Thomas Soucek with Matthias Fernandes in that midfield. I wouldn't be surprised if it is Magassa in that midfield, Gerard Bowen, Somerville, Pablo, and Castellanos. West Ham will be looking to make it difficult for Arsenal. It's going to be a game of nerves. Both teams will be nervous. Arsenal Premier League title is at stake. West Ham Premier League survival is at stake. All eyes will be on them at 6:30 p.m. So that's the Arsenal game. Okay. Okay. Lashko says, yeah, imagine what can do to their opponent if they fight each other. They said they'll fight till the end of the season. They didn't say they'll fight with each other. That's from Ash. Madrid will play Haram tomorrow. Is it? Anyway, maybe Haram football is not just about being conservative, but it can also be a bit dirty. When you say that, you remind me of the days when Jose Mourinho would play Pepe, at least in midfield, and tell him to track Messi wherever he was. And those days. Okay. You say we're missing Lamine Yamal. It will be a close game, but hope we beat them. Ash, now, remember, Barcelona's desire in that game is as simple as a point. Wolf says, YouTube guide alert. Your account will be permanent. I don't need to save that playlist. But thanks for your concern. Anyways, this is what I was going to say. Barcelona only need a point. Barcelona need only a point. But I constantly feel that Barcelona are going to have the last laugh. Guys, remember my Real Madrid fan, for goodness sake. I wouldn't want to lose to Barcelona. I wouldn't want to draw. Why? Because if we lose, that means we have to stand there and clap for Barcelona, whether we like it or not. That means they get to celebrate in front of our traveling fans before our faces as we walk off the pitch. This is like having an ex-girlfriend who you're still in love with, but they part ways with you, and then they invite you to their wedding. It sort of feels like that, or it would feel like that. A punch in the gut, sort of kind of thing. SSB says Emmanuel Petit said there is a chance Mbappe could go to Arsenal if Arsenal win the UEFA Champions League. What do you think? Kylian Mbappe, as a goal scorer, I'd want him, but the chaotic him, I have reservations about Kylian Mbappe in regards to his discipline, overall discipline in the dressing room. I have nothing against him on the pitch. But when it comes to the dressing room, I'm not too positive about that. I'm sort of in the mixed zone. I'm sort of in the mixed zone about that. I do not know where it would land. Excuse me. Hello. No Mbappe. No, Mbappe is a curse. We're still doing this in 2026. Woof. Your guess is as good as mine, Ash. Your guess is as good as mine. They celebrated against us in October. I want to celebrate the title in their face. Let's go, boys. We gotta get the win tomorrow. Vamos. Ash says, I don't know why autocorrect is. I know. It can be an issue. That's why, by the way, the one thing I never fault people for is a missed word or a misspelled word. First of all, English is not my my mother tongue as well. So I have the discernment, but also I try as much as possible to read between the lines and fill in the gaps. I know sometimes how autocorrect tries to be too smart that they give you words that you do not intend to put. It happens to all of us, I think. Anyways, so it's going to be a hot fixture. Barcelona want to win their 29th La Liga title. Real Madrid, unless God came and said, I'm changing the destiny of this season, Real Madrid are not winning the league title. The only way in which they would stand to win it is if they beat Barcelona tomorrow and then Barcelona lose all their remaining 3 games, whereas Madrid are just winning. That's the only likely scenario. Is it possible? In a world where God intervenes. As far as things go, it is not my expectation by a mile. First of all, I'm looking forward to watching the game as a football fan. The Real Madrid fan in me, would rather sit it out and just wait to see the result, to know Barcelona drew or won. Congratulations, they won the league title. But I must watch the game. We want to get the 100 points. We want to win the league at Camp Nou. They want to save their face after the controversy. Both teams got a reason to fight. Yo, Titi. Titi Vision says tomorrow is a big game. Titi Vision joins us from Spain, Morocco. Kindly remind me, Titi Vision. Initially, it was Morocco. I seem to remember it was Morocco or either Morocco, Spain, or Italy. One of those 3. Okay. Titi is an Arsenal fan. So when he talks about a big game, I think he's talking about either the Barcelona versus Real Madrid game or the West Ham versus Arsenal game. One of the 2. Chances are. So, Barcelona have an opportunity to make history. Guys, it's unfortunately, it's a sad fact. It's a sad reality. There's not a single ounce in me that believes that Real Madrid can go to the Camp Nou and win a game of football. It's been a chaotic week. Tchouaméni and Fede Valverde fighting twice. Kylian Mbappe's petition being signed by a lot of Barcelona fans. I would want to assume some few Real Madrid fans and those that would wish for Kylian Kylian Mbappe just to leave Real Madrid because it would make Real Madrid a lesser, stronger opponent. Last I checked, the petition had surpassed 31 million signatures. I do not know what it is now. I do not know at what number it stands at. So there's all this bad press around Real Madrid. And then they are also in the midst of hunting for a new manager or head coach. Multiple reports and credible sources have reported that they want Jose Mourinho. However, some sources go on to report that should they fail with Jose Mourinho, they may be forced to go for Didier Deschamps. Apparently, they are no longer considering Maximiliano Allegri. They're no longer considering Mauricio Pochettino. They're no longer considering. Of course, there were reports pertaining Fabregas, some Arteta, etc. Antonio Conte. But in terms of core, it's been Allegri, it's been Pochettino, it's been Jose Mourinho, Didier Deschamps. Those are some of the names that have been sounded the most in the context of the job itself. And it looks like Mourinho is the leading candidate thus far at the moment. Things could change tomorrow. So there's a lot of going on at Real Madrid. And now they have to travel to the Camp Nou. Barcelona will be super hyped for this because regardless of whatever records they may want to write, they would want to write one where they hosted Real Madrid and clinched the Spanish La Liga title. They are 29th in the history. Remember, they've just returned to the Camp Nou. That is still in its finishing stages of the redevelopment. So there's just a lot riding to this game that Barcelona would want to stick it in Real Madrid. The last 6 meetings between the two sides, Barcelona have won 5. Real Madrid have won only 1, and that was the first leg at the Santiago Bernabeu by 2-1. But they lost the Super Cup 3-2. You go back last season, they lost to same side, Copa del Rey final 3-2. They lost the Spanish Super Cup 5-2. They lost at the Santiago Bernabeu 4-0. They lost the reverse fixture. Was it 4-3? I mean, it was just an obliteration and a humiliation, one after the other last season. And we had to take it. This season, we've already taken that of the Super Cup. It's bad. It's sad. It's unfortunate. But that is the nature of football. At the end of the day, whether it's a win for Barcelona, whether it's a draw, they will be champions. I just do not have it in me or feel it in me that Real Madrid can even win that game. I just do not feel it. Sometimes you have that feeling, a gut feeling, deep down in your stomach to say maybe, there's a world where you say maybe. Remember, for example, when I was making my prediction for the Liverpool versus Chelsea game, I said it was going to end in a 1-1 draw, perfect score prediction. But a part of me also knew that or felt that Liverpool had the upper hand, But I do not feel that about Real Madrid. Everything I feel is in favor of Barcelona. So how could they set up? Barcelona, Joan Garcia in goal, Jules Koundé, Joao Cancelo at left back, Pau Kubasi and Gerard Martin, Gavi and Pedri in that midfield, Marcus Rashford, Fermin Lopez, Dani Olmo, Robert Lewandowski, because, they have injuries. They have injuries to concern about. Lamine Yamal, Johan Christensen. Now, Rafinha is back on the grass. Is he fit enough to start? I do not know. Ash, do let me know if Rafinha is fit enough to start. How I wish Pedri was here. He would be having a field day. Pedri is another Barcelona fan who oftentimes joins us from Spain. Then on the side of Real Madrid, of course, they have so many injuries. Ferland Mendy, Dani Carvajal, Eder Militao, Ada Gula, Rodrigo Goes, Dani Ceballos, Fede Valverde. But Fede Valverde should be fit enough to start. I mean, according to his apology, it was a minor head cut when he knocked his head on the table. So that shouldn't be stopping him to start. Anyways, so Thibaut Courtois could be back in goal. Dean Howson alongside Antonio Rudiger, Fran Garcia. No, I'd rather go with Alvaro Carreras if he's fit to start at left back. Then Alexander Trent-Arnold at right back, Chouameni and Fede Valverde in midfield, Vinicius Junior, Jude Bellingham, Brahim Diaz, and Gonzalo Garcia, because Kylian Mbappe is obviously injured. But it could also be Vinicius Junior and Brahim Diaz up front. Then you congest the midfield with Bellingham, Chouameni, Camavinga, and Fede Valverde, just to crowd it up for Barcelona, to have that bit. Ash says, okay. Titi says 3-0 to Barcelona. Yo, my Arsenal guy, I come to your channel, but never ask your name. What's your name, my G? My name is Robert K. Sarkos, and I stream from Kampala, Uganda. Don't know if you've heard of the country, small landlocked country called Uganda. Our neighbors are Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, DRC Congo, Rwanda. Those are the countries with whom we directly share a border. We're a small landlocked country nestled in the eastern part of Africa. So, but Robert is my name. You can call me Sarkos, you can call me Robert, you can call me my colleagues in the different forums on TikTok, and they call me Football Tribe by the brand name. Oh, Robert, like Robert Lewandowski. At least you have a point of reference. That tells me you will not forget my name then. Okay, so let's go, Titi. We beat Madrid, you beat West Ham, you celebrate Premier League, we celebrate La Liga, let's go. I mean, that's the perfect world. Now, I'm imagining, you see, this is how it works. Imagine you're, let's say, an Arsenal fan, a Barcelona fan, and then that happens. And maybe by extension, for some reason, like some people are, you're an Inter Milan fan or you're a Bayern Munich fan. Jesus Christ. Would your celebrations end? Because in a perfect world where they all win, it will be endless celebrations. But okay, you say Flick never starts up. Hansi Flick never starts players who come from injury, so Rafinha will come to maybe second half. I see Famin starting at left wing. Okay, how about Frankie de Jong? He's not among the injured players. Frankie de Jong is one of those players that I like. He's often quite about how he goes about his game, but he's an effective guy in that midfield. Madrid, that is Mutale Farouk. Hi, Mutale Farouk. But Samba. Mutale Farouk, that's a Uganda name. Hi, Mutale. So you said Madrid, Echija Wonya, Echijo Wonya, Butasamba. Oh, what Farouk is saying, that the only thing that would save Real Madrid is not playing. In other words, forfeiting the game. And they say, just give Barcelona their 3 goals and 3 points. We are not showing up for this one. Okay. Looks like everybody thinks Barcelona are just going to win this one. I want to see Frank de Jong starting with Pedri and Ronald Araujo, and right back for Vini. Okay, completely understand. By the way, I feel that when Ronald Araujo starts in that Barcelona backline, they're a bit more solid. They have control. Oh, this is Gladiator in any case. Oh, Gladiator, good to have you on the channel. Gladiator, we share a common forum on TikTok, on Nando Live. So we're always there sharing our views and thoughts. But thank you so much, Glad, for making the time to be part of this one. So a lot of you seem to be of the consensus that it's going to be one-way traffic, that there's no way Real Madrid come out of this one. And as a Real Madrid fan, it's a painful fact for me to digest or to take in, but it is what it is. Okay, because Rashford will start at right wing, and he's never going to track back to defend. Okay, I understand. Okay, the analytical part of it. I think that game is in favor of Barcelona. Every little pointer that we can think of points in Barcelona's direction. Home advantage. They've just returned to the Camp Nou. They want to stick to Real Madrid. In recent games, they have it better in terms of the pedigree of the El Clasico. I mean, everything is just in their favor, and they would want to embarrass their opponents. It's like the ex you're still in love with inviting you to their wedding. Simply that. That is how it is going to feel for me as a Real Madrid fan. Okay, Ash says, oh, before we get to Ash, okay, Elion says hello. Okay, hello Elion. See the thing as a Barca fan is we have no reason to hate Arsenal. We beat you at the 2006 UEFA Champions League final, but apart from that, we have no reason to hate each other. We do not have a reason to hate each other, but we have a bone to pick. You remember that red card to Robin Van Persie back in 2011, was it? You remember that red card to Robin Van Persie? That one we will never forgive you for that. Okay. Okay. Elion said hello. He said Madrid is a Madrid fan, I suspect. Araujo is actually doing good defensively at right back. Okay, that is from Ash. Raymond Kanguba joins us. He says, hi, West Ham versus Arsenal. It is Arsenal win. Arsenal is a Premier League title. He means to say Arsenal wins the Premier League title, and the Premier League trophy is for Arsenal. That's from Raymond Kanguba. Excuse his misalignment of a few comments there. Okay, or words. It will be a close game. We should never rule out Madrid. Anything can happen on the field. The possibility of winning and losing is both 50-50, always for both teams. Yeah, anything can happen in a game of football. Today, I was watching a clip of somebody who said they took a bet one time in the UEFA Champions League when, was it Kaiserslautern? When they were visiting Barcelona and they won. Anything can happen. Real Madrid could come and play the game of their life, literally to say, there's no way we are losing to this Barcelona side. And they have the last laugh at us. At least let's win this game. Let them win the title next weekend, because just like they did winning last weekend to extend Barcelona's title party. Basically, they can also look to do that. Okay, Gladiator says, I think De Jong and Pedri will start in midfield, and I would wish Famin to start also behind Lewandowski instead of Olmo. Then Rashford goes on to disturb Trent Arnold. Now, this is why I want Fede Valverde to start in this game. Why? Because Fede Valverde, first of all, has the discernment, or at least tactically in their organization, he tracks back and he provides some bit of cover for Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think like most of us does acknowledge that defensively he's a bit inefficient, and so he needs a bit of cover. So usually I observed this in their 3-0 victory against Manchester City, because they knew that Jeremy Doku was going to cause him lots of trouble. So Fede Valverde will track back and fill in at the extreme side of the right back, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold would squeeze in next to the centre backs, or sometimes then pull out, depending on the situation of the game, pull outwards a bit into midfield to feel where then Fede has sort of left a bit of a gap in that sort of way. That's why I would want Fede to start. I would rather we congest that midfield, whether it is Thiago Pina, Jude Bellingham, Tchouameni, Fede, but then I imagine a moment where Real Madrid concedes, it's Tchouameni who has made the error, and then Fede Valverde feels like slapping him. Jokes aside jokes aside about that. Anyways, okay. Ash says Famin will start at left back, bro, because Rashford will play right back. Okay. We're only guessing. Until the starting 11s come out tomorrow, we'll never know where it does lies at entirely. I'll give you my starting lineup. That is Ash. He says Joan Garcia at goal, Cancelo left back, Kubasi and Kubasi Maldini as centre back. Ronald Araujo right back, but Flick might start Eric or Kunde, never know. I completely understand. When you say Kubasi and Maldini, who is Maldini in this particular case? Please let me know who is Maldini in this particular case. Who is the Maldini of Barcelona? I may not be perhaps intuitive enough to read between the lines on that one. Pedri, Frankie de Jong in the double pivot, Olmo as central attacking midfield, Lewandowski as the striker, Ferran Torres, and then Marcus Rashford. You say Valverde is out of the El Clasico. Out as in out due to disciplinary action, out due to injury, out due what exactly? Lord Gerard Lord Gerard Maldini Martin. I completely understand. Gerard Martin is our Maldini. Wow. That's some huge praise. Because Maldini is one of the greatest of all time, defensively, and even actually when you ask those who appreciate Italian football perhaps a little than some of us do, or in terms of following it, they'll tell you he's one of the best players that has ever stepped on the pitch. And so when you really make that inference of Gerard Martin, then you really hold him in high regard. However, I do think that Barcelona need to sign an elite centre back. They need to sign an elite centre back, somebody that can offer guidance to those young boys in that back line, the same way Real Madrid needs somebody serious. I wouldn't want Dean Howson to be starting all our games. He should be a squad player at Real Madrid at best, So anyways, you say, Ash says Barcelona is fundamentally an attacking team. They won't have a Maldini, Loro. I understand. People made fun of Gerard Martin, calling him Maldini, and he actually started playing well. Oh, okay. They are linked with the move to Bastoni, the left-footed centre-back from Inter Milan. Yeah, I've had multiple reports linking Barcelona with a potential move for Bastoni. And whoever they scoop up, I think they need. Barcelona, you have the money, okay, maybe not splashed with cash, but you need to invest in that backline at least, because Barcelona have no problems in midfield. They have no problems in their forward lines, even though we appreciate they need to sign a striker, somebody that is going to come and fill in the void for Robert Lewandowski, who I suspect could be leaving at the end of the season. Maybe, what do you think his ideal destination would be? I do not envision him as a guy that would opt to go to the Saudi Pro League, unless otherwise, but he sort of, it kind of feels to me that he could either end up in the Italian Serie A or the Major League Soccer. At least one of those destinations is where he could go. We have the money, but FFP, problem is the FFP. Lewy might go to AC Milan. Jesus Christ. AC Milan in a race to get the oldest players in that they can have their hands on. I know they have some averagely young or middle-aged players, but I mean, you just signed Luka Modric. He's what, 40? Lewandowski? But anyway, they signed Olivier Giroud in the evenings of his career, so why not? Anyways, that's Italian teams for you. They are always looking for the next retiring guy. Juventus want to sign Alson Ramsey-Baker. I've had reports linking, who was it? He's a Man City player, back with a move to Italy. Matteo Kovacic is one of those that has been linked with a move to Italy in recent times. What is it about Italian teams with the experienced players? I mean, somebody help me understand. I understand that just because they are old doesn't mean they are not good enough to play. But over the length of a campaign, sometimes they get exposed, they get started, But there seems to be a knack to, want those kinds of players. Obviously, look, KDB went to Napoli, where he's done well, but being KDB, injuries have been a key part of his season. They signed Rasmus Højlund, young striker, well and good. They had signed Lorenzo Luca, initially on loan from Udinese, for about 9 million euros with an obligation to buy for 40 million euros. But they didn't give him much of a chance and then sent him on loan to Nottingham Forest. Last I checked, I don't even know how that is going, by the way, because there's also an option for Nottingham Forest to sign him for 40 million euros. So you never know. Anyways, But there's a love affair between Italian Serie A teams and all players. Some of the few teams demystifying that are Como, because Cesc Fabregas loves young players, but also he appreciates that he could use experienced players. And that's why he wanted to sign Eric Garcia from Barcelona. Okay, Italian teams do not have money to spend. That's also part of it. But I mean, okay, they don't have money to spend in terms of buying these marquee players, because you really, really have to think hard to remember the last time an Italian team made a marquee signing. Of course, you have to go back to Cristiano Ronaldo, you go back to Romelu Lukaku, you go back to... There's a player I'm forgetting. Of course, maybe the time Juventus signed Dusan Vlahovic from Fiorentina, when they signed Manuel Locatelli. But it doesn't come very often that an Italian team is signing a player north of 50 million euros. Remember, in the summer, Inter Milan wanted to sign Ademola Lookman from Atlanta, and Atlanta were demanding about 45 million euros, and Inter Milan were only willing to offer up to 41 million euros in total package. And the deal collapsed for that matter. The deal collapsed. So, So in terms of finances, how are AC Milan going to get back to their glory days? Because there's two ways you go about it. You either go for and scout very affordable but very good young players, but also sometimes you have those sort of squad players at big clubs that are not playing as much and may not cost you that much. What example can I give you? For lack of a better example, assume Christian Nogard was worthy of an AC Milan jersey, and I'm not saying he's worthy to go and be a starter there, but because, I mean, when you look around Real Madrid, Eduardo Camavinga would be a good player at AC Milan, but you suspect that Real Madrid are going to demand for 50, 60 million euros for Eduardo Camavinga, so makes it difficult. But thank you so much, Gladiator, for that insight. As says, if Lewandowski leaves, we're going to need to sign a number 9 as well. I do not see Atleti selling Alvarez to us. Plus, he's too expensive for us. Maybe we can swap Lewa for Oshmeni. Come on, Galatasaray. Okay, but you could also do a swap for Julian Alvarez. The question is, who do you have that Atletico de Madrid want in that swap? Ash, what do you think? What if Lamine Yamal leaves Barcelona and comes to us? Just as a suggestion, how would that look like? Okay. Lagos says, who is gonna win the Ballon d'Or? That conversation, I mean, I do not know. Honestly speaking, I do not know at the moment. If you press me to really think hard about, I'll be lying if I said I have any candidates, because I'm waiting for the season to first end for me to nominate candidates. I do not want to nominate people who have not won anything. I absolutely do not want. Why? Because to the best of my knowledge, the history of the Ballon d'Or and these major accolades were based on winning. What have you won with your team? Beyond your individual brilliance, what have you won? So I'm waiting for the season to climax. I've seen suggestions of Ousmane Dembele, who's had only 9 starts in the French League 1. And I'm thinking to myself, really? So you have 9 starts, score a couple of goals, maybe possibly win the French League 1 and the UEFA Champions League, having, come in and scored a couple of goals, and then suddenly we should give you the Ballon d'Or? Not really. I'd rather than it go to Vitinha, if that were to be the case, by the way. If, let's say, if PSG win the French League 1, which looks like they are going to do, and then they win the Champions League, and then somehow Portugal reaches at least the bare minimum of the semi-finals of the World Cup, or even further, I'd nominate him highly for the Ballon d'Or. But for now, given that it is a World Cup year, you have to think about the World Cup. Very, very important aspect of it. So whoever has played well with their team, having won something or otherwise, and then their team country does well at the World Cup, that could be the decider of it. Trust me, I've said this before. If, let's say, France were to win the World Cup, do you see that Kylian Mbappe has not won anything at club level? But because he's currently the top scorer of the UEFA Champions League with 15 goals, currently the top scorer in the Spanish La Liga with 24 goals, if France were to win the World Cup and is a key part of that, maybe his top scorer will scored some decisive goals, trust me, they will be propping up his name to be right up there. That's just how things work, as unfortunate as they may sound for me. Okay. Lashko says, which country will be surprised in the World Cup? For me, Turkey and Norway. Okay. The dark horse for the World Cup. Gladiator, help me with that question. Who do you think will be the dark horse for the World Cup? That country that you think could surprise the world, best maybe of what you've seen in the qualifiers and something like that. Lashkush is of the view that it could be Turkey, it could be Norway. If Norway bring the kind of form that they had during the qualifiers, yeah, there could be that kind of team that sort of surprises everybody. And then, because, for example, my favorites, Spain is in the mix in no particular order. You have Spain, you have Portugal, you have France, you have Spain. Sorry, not Spain again. England. Yes, those four are my main protagonists. Those are the teams that I think one of those could go all the way. One of those could go all the way, or at least even two of them. Then, of course, I can't rule out Argentina as defending champions because they still have the players. The McAllister, although McAllister has not had a good season, Enzo Fernandez, it's there and there. You never know what Messi is going to deliver for you. Julian Alvarez, the tail end of the season has been troubled by injuries. You know, you said that course. You say Argentina. You think Argentina is a dark horse? No. Argentina wouldn't be a dark horse. I mean, they are the reigning champions, so whatever they do would come as no surprise to the world of football, really. Then they can't enter competitions with English clubs for players. That's why even their performance has gone down, because even their good national players are running away from the league. Okay. Even we are waiting for World Cup to see the Ballon d'Or winner. Yeah, we have to wait for the World Cup. As unfortunate as that sounds. That's why, for me, I'll always insist, Messi should have never won the 2010 Ballon d'Or. He should have never. Not at one bit. But, well, we're told he beat Gerd Muller's record of the most goals in a calendar year. He scored 92, therefore, let's give it to him. I think the only thing they won that year was the Spanish La Liga title in 2010. Of course, they had reached the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League, but they got knocked out by Inter Milan's Wesley Sneijder. Okay. Okay. How much? Mr. Dynamite, how much for what? Tell me your price. My price for what? You want to super chat me? I tell you my price for super chatting me. Even if it is $1, I'll take it. Even if it is a penny, I'll take it. Okay. Hi. I says winning detector do Portugal and Norway. Okay. That is from Gladiator, Portugal and Norway. I don't know. I don't look when I look at the Portuguese squad, like when I look at all the players they have, the amount of quality in that squad, I look at them as one of the favorites, even though they've never won it. My only reservation is on their manager, Roberto Martinez. But when you go through their squad, through the defenders, through the midfielders, goalkeepers, they have some of the best players. For example, let's go through the goalkeepers. Diego Costa, that one is at FC Porto. Jose Sa, At Wolves, maybe not really. You rather go with Rui Silva at Sporting. I think should be second there, but Louis Patricio, maybe at Atlanta. You go to their defenders. They have Nuno Mendes, Ruben Diaz. Injuries have troubled part of his season. Matthias Nunes. Nowadays, Matthias Nunes is being listed as a defender, yet we know he's a midfielder. But because Man City predominantly play him as a right back, so you'd find him in that regard. Manchester United is Diego Dalot. I wouldn't count on him if it were up to me. There's a player called Goncalo Inacio at Sporting CP. Semedo, I think he's past his days. Good days, but you never know. But Joao Cancelo is still a good guy. Renato Viega at is he at Villarreal at the moment? Renato Viega, Gladiator. Kindly correct me if I'm wrong. Renato Viega there. Okay. Ash is saying good night. Good night, brothers. Good night, Reluctant. Okay. Always a pleasure, Ash, to have you on the podcast. Until next time, we'll see you. Okay, so back to Portugal. Which other key player? Totti Gomez at Wolves has had a good season. Then you look at their midfield: Vitinha, Joao Neves, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Pedro Goncalves, Sporting CP, Ruben Neves at Al Hilal. Who else? Darius Suga at Chelsea has barely played any minutes or much. I wouldn't count him that much. Then their forwards, Joao Felix has had a brilliant season at Al Nassr. I think he has about 20 goals and 12 assists. I think they're about. So he's done well there. You have Francesco Conceição at Juventus. You have Fabio Silva at Dortmund. Cristiano Ronaldo, Rafael Leao has not had the kind of season that you'd want him to have. There's a Trincao at Sporting CP. Who else? Any other key forward? So anyway, relatively, you feel that Portugal have a fairly strong squad that can compete favorably. You say Diego Costa, Cancelo, Mendes, Diaz, Inacio, Vitinha, Neves, Bruno, Conceição, Bernardo, and Ramos. Yeah, Goncalo Ramos at PSG. Yeah, very, very good team. So when you look at that composition, I feel they have a team that compete well enough. The coaching just has to be right. Remember, they reached the semifinals of they won the UEFA Nations League. They won the UEFA Nations League. They beat Spain in the final. They beat Spain in the final. So they're a good team. They have a very decent team. That's why I rank them in the top 4. So I don't look at them as a dark horse. I look at them as one of those teams that I would expect to win. What is the situation with Belgium, guys? I've been a bit out of touch with that Belgium national team. I know Thibaut Courtois had gone into retirement, and then I think it was someone back. What are they going to bring? Axel Witsel, Thiago Hazard, KDB, Jeremy Doku. There's another dark-skinned guy. He's a winger also. I'm forgetting his name. He's not much different from Jeremy Doku. But I think about the Belgium team, and I feel like they're past their prime. So I don't know what they'll be able to bring for us in that regard or respect. German, you say Viega is at Villarreal. Oh, thank you, Gladiator. Okay, I say see you, brother. I'll revise a chapter and sleep. I got exams on 16th. It's 3:07 a.m. for me. All right, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Reluctant gamer returned back and said we're still alive. Yeah, we're still alive. Anyways, so how about German? German, in terms of their squad, how do they look like? Let's go through them. Manuel Neuer is, of course, going to be in goal. They'll look to rely on Jamal Musiala, who, ever since that broken ankle from the FIFA Club World Cup when he had that clash with Gianluigi Donnarumma, he's yet to hit that stride of the Jamal Musiala that we really appreciated when he had just come through the ranks. Kai Havertz has not had a good season. He's been mostly injured. Joshua Kimmich has had a good season. Leon Goretzka, not a good season. He's often been a bench player because Alexander Pavlovich has been playing in that midfield role. Who else? Leonard Karl, Serge Gnabry got injured. Look at Nick Voltmada. He's not had the perfect season with Newcastle. I'm trying to think about them. German, because we know German to be a very good tournament team. We know them to be a very good tournament team. Usually they'll come up and put on a good show, So what do you guys think of German? Where do you rate them? Where do they stand in your view? Lashgus says they say if Portugal and Argentina win the groups, could play together in the round of 16. Wow. Jesus Christ. Wouldn't that be a little too early for those two giants to face off? Of course, Portugal is not a giant in the context of pedigree of winning the World Cup, but nonetheless, it will be such a huge game. Messi versus Cristiano, it will be that conversation all over again. You remember Cristiano Ronaldo got a red card, but he was given a suspended sentence of 1 year for that red card so that he features in the first games at the World Cup. So, Serge Gnabry is going to be out of the World Cup. So, German. Let's wait and see what Julian Nagelsmann will bring for us. Raymond says, Arsenal West Ham Premier League title trophies for Arsenal. Okay. Thank you, Raymond. So, what else about German? I don't know. Netherlands, you think of them, Tijan Reinders had a good start at the season at Manchester City. Then somehow, for some reason, Pep Guardiola kicked him out until, he's not started that many games ever since then. You look at Julian Timber, he's had a brilliant season, but injuries and that growing injury has been sort of coming the way. They lost Xavi Simons at Tottenham Hotspur to an anterior cruciate ligament injury. Virgil van Dijk in that back line. Matthias de Ligt has spent then a good chunk of the season out with a back injury. Yahaya, but Niji, you say, is Saka better than Messi? In what world is he better than Messi? Is that even a case of comparison? Worlds apart. That's the case of comparing lemons and apples. That which one is sweeter? Really? So, okay, Netherlands. Vagos will be still playing. Of course, they are under the charges of Ronald Koeman. Frankie de Jong in that midfield. I'm trying to think. Is Sky, the former Ajax midfielder that played for Man United, and he went to Girona. The name eludes me. He was in that 2019 Ajax elite side that had Dusan Vlahovic. Sorry, not Dusan Vlahovic. I don't know why I called him Dusan Vlahovic. That had Matthias de Ligt, Frankie de Jong, Tadic. Yes, Tadic. The former Southampton forward. He was part of that team. His name has eluded me, but even for Netherlands, I'm waiting to see. Memphis Depay. There's this guy that was at Tottenham. He went back to the Dutch Eredivisie. Oh, geez, why are names slipping out of my head at a critical time like this? But even Netherlands, I do not, hold them in high regard at the moment. I wait to be surprised if they go beyond the round of 16. You say Belgium, Courtois, De Bast, De Kupia, Monia. Monia is still playing for that team. Must be old. At the Winter, Onana, Tillemans maybe still has it. KDB has had, his season has been troubled by injuries. Doku, Bakoi, Lukaku, Lois Openda. I think I was looking for Lois Openda. That's the name I was looking for in my head. So, anyways, all those teams, you have those sort of European giants that have sort of fizzled down in energy. We do not have high expectations of them, but maybe they come up and surprise us. In Germany, in Belgium, and Netherlands, those three nations, you never know what they bring. In terms of South America, I'm not too optimistic about my Brazil team. I don't know what is going to come of them. We just have to wait and see. In terms of Africa, Senegal should be able to represent us well. Morocco, will they have a repeat of what they did last outing at the World Cup 2022 in Qatar to get to the semifinals? I don't think so. Algeria, never optimistic about them. Egypt do not have Egypt and the World Cup in the same sentence. I wait to see what comes of them. Ghana, they decided to part ways with Ado, Abba Ado. We just have to wait and see. Anyways, guys, it's been 1 hour and 36 minutes. Allow me call it tonight. Thank you so much, Gladiator, for having been part of this one. It's a pleasure. Lashgush, good to have you. Yahaya, thank you so much. Raymond Kangumba, always a pleasure to have you around. Senegal and Morocco, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Okay. What's his? No, not him. Reluctant Gamer, Ash. Let me see. I hope I do not. TT Vision, thank you so much. I'm trying to look through your names to main edits. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Nathan, Megnen, Nayin, thank you so much. And every single one of you. Reluctant Gamer, thank you so much for honoring your bet on that game between Chelsea and Liverpool. It was a perfect score prediction. So you honored your bet. And then thank you, Ash, for the super chats. My name is Nasa Islam Edin in Algeria. Hi, Nasa. Hi, Nasa. Good to have you on the broadcast, although you've come at the tail end of it. But what team do you support? Tell us in the comment section before we sign out, before we call it a night and I go chat football in other forums, because that's what I'll do after here. Tomorrow is a Sunday. My itinerary, given that we do not have a morning broadcast on Sundays, my itinerary has something entirely different. So we return Sunday night. Nasa, I'm waiting for you to let us know what team you support before we call it a night. Before we call it a night. You say Liverpool and Chelsea were playing to end the season. Yeah, indeed, they were playing to end the season. Those ones are just waiting for their season to get back. Ruvingo says, I'm back. Nasa says, I love Real Madrid. What's your prediction for the El Clasico, Barcelona versus Real Madrid? Ruvingo, good to have you back, although you've come at the tail end of it when I'm almost signing out. How are you? I'm all right. How about yourself? Oh, guys, before we sign out, I'd even forgotten. I'd forgotten. For some reason, maybe because I was dragged away. Real Madrid 4-0 Barcelona. Wow, that's a bold prediction. I almost forgot to, take you through the other results. So Chelsea and Liverpool shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw. Ryan Gravenberch scored for Liverpool, and then for Chelsea, it was a free kick from Enzo Fernandez. Initially, I thought Wesley Fofana had a touch of it, but no, he did not. It was a goal by Enzo Fernandez. He also had another key moment in the game where he missed an opportunity. Then Szoboszlai hit the base of the upright. Virgil van Dijk hit the crossbar with his header. So, sort of a kind of fair result. given how the game transpired for both sides. I never really thought that they were miles apart of each other, that one deserved to win it more than the other, because they both had 3 shots on targets. Chelsea edged possession about 52% compared to 48% of Liverpool. It was that kind of game, really. Not much to separate the two sides. So I thought the draw was a fair result. Then Brighton put 3 past Wolverhampton Wanderers, pretty much like we had gone for a 3-1 prediction for Brighton to beat Wolverhampton Wanderers. They conceded in as early as the first minute. Jack Henshelwood scored that goal. Then Lewis Dunk in the 50th minute and Yankuba Minte in the 86th minute. What that implies is that Brighton have brightened their chances of possibly qualifying for Europe. They have 53 points in 7th place. But because Bournemouth won their game, they retained that 6th place at 55 points, because they managed to win their game against Fulham, I think, by a 1-0. That goal scored by Ryan, the Brazilian youngster that joined Bournemouth in January. Both teams had a red card. Joachim Anderson received the yellow card in stoppage time of the first half for Fulham, and then Ryan Christie received the red card on the FC Bournemouth side. Then in the other game, Manchester United played it out to a goalless draw away to Sunderland, but Manchester United, I felt, were lucky to get away with the point. They were nowhere near good enough on the day. I thought they only had 1 shot on target compared to Sunderland's 4. Their XG was about 0.6. Now, like I had anticipated that Michael Adrian Carrick was going to make some changes to his starting 11. He made some changes. We saw Nusa Mazori starting at right back. We saw Mason Mount starting in that midfield. We saw Joshua Zirkzee starting up front. So those, and then the return, of course, of Lisandro Martinez after his 3-match suspension. So I anticipate he's going to do a little bit more of that, because he needs to try out other members of the squad so that the club is better placed to decide, we are getting rid of this one, we should be replacing him with the other one. Chances are high, in my humble opinion, that Michael Carrick is going to be given that Manchester United job. When you listen into what is coming through in terms of news from within the circles of Manchester United, about the process of recruiting a manager, all fingers seem to point back to Michael Adrian Carrick. Yes, they are assessing other candidates. Apparently, he wants to add Kian McKenna to his backroom staff. Now, I don't know, would that be disrespectful? I mean, Ipswich, last I checked, were on the verge of qualification, or if they didn't qualify already, to return to the Premier League. How do you go from being a head coach to being an assistant? I know Manchester United is a big club, but I'd rather be a king on a hill than a servant on a mountain. That's how I look at it. Okay, let me take in some of your comments. Okay, Gladiator says, no, I read that comment. Okay. Ruvingo says, do you think Arsenal are going to beat PSG? Difficult question. I've not yet sold myself to that idea. I still feel PSG are favorites to win. Bosinia Sandzak says Arsenal need Edin Dzeko. Really? Edin Dzeko is past his better days. Is past his glory days. 5-year deal? Not really. Not really. I know you appreciate him that much, but not really. An interesting game between Bournemouth and Fulham. Unfortunately, I did not have the chance to watch that one. But thank you so much, Gladiator. I think you will have better insights for us on Monday when it comes to that particular game, when we discuss it in the other forums. Okay, then Lashgush says Edin Dzeko 5 years as a coach. Okay, but Zirkzee should just look for a club where he will play. Yeah, that's true. In fact, by the way, chances were high he was going to leave last summer, but for some reason, Ruben Amorim chose to keep him around, but he was hardly playing him. Chances are high he will return to Italy. Juventus were interested. Inter Milan made inquiries, and and his former club Bologna were some of the teams that were interested. But yeah, I think he should go back to Italy and where he will get more regular football. Or if Manchester United want to retain him, they are better off loaning him, at least. Then Semi says, "Free you, brother. Greetings from jail." Greetings from jail. Really? How do you have access to internet? Maybe anyway, you could be in a Norwegian jail, as told that in Norway, that when they jail you, you're in a comfortable room, you have access to TV, you can have some access to internet. I do not know if that is a statement of fact, but that's what I heard. So you could be joining us from a Norway, jail. God bless you. God bless you too as well, Semi. Then this is Yusuf. Yusuf says, Galatasaray are champions. Congratulations to them. I think the writing was on the wall once they beat up against Fenerbahce. Semi says, one time a day we can use, okay. Okay, that's good. What prison are you in and in what country? The internet is an interesting place. So yeah, Manchester United felt toothless. They had a bit of a down performance, but they are okay. They have already achieved their objectives of qualifying for Europe. So any result was bound to be okay for as long as they did not lose. So, and it is what it is. And I suspect even in the subsequent games we'll see more of the Mason Mounts, getting a bit of more game time, as things go. So then tomorrow, 3 games kick off at 4 p.m. Burnley at home against Aston Villa. Then Crystal Palace will be at home against Everton. And then Nottingham Forest will be at home against Newcastle. Then in the late kickoff at 6:30 p.m., West Ham take on Arsenal. Then on Monday Night Football, Tottenham will be up against Leeds at 10 p.m., while on Wednesday, Manchester City will play their game in hand against Crystal Palace. So that is the itinerary of the week, or for the remainder of the weekend as well. Okay, then in terms of the Premier League table, not much has changed. I already gave you that Manchester City are now 2 points behind Arsenal. Really, they've played the same number of games. Manchester City have scored 5 goals more in terms of overall goal scored, but Arsenal still have that extra, goal in comparison to Man City in terms of goal difference. Then Manchester United with their 65 points, it means that they cannot finish above Manchester City for the 13th consecutive season. Wow. Impressive statistic. Wow. Impressive statistic. Then Liverpool will be hoping that Aston Villa do not win tomorrow, because if Aston Villa win tomorrow, Liverpool will slip to 5th. Yes, they play away to Burnley, and I suspect they will win, Aston Villa. So Chelsea remained in 9th place with 49 points. So not much has changed for Chelsea. Then what else? The bottom side of the table, we are still waiting for those games tomorrow. Okay. What happened to Lazio? Lazio, ever since they lost Simone Inzaghi and he went to Inter Milan, they've never been the same side. Maurizio Sarri is in his second spell with them, but they have never felt like that team. You remember that team that had Ciro Immobile? They've never been that team again, in a way. It's they've been on some form of downward trajectory, you felt, as has been the nature perhaps of the entirety of Italian football by extension. So I do not have much hopes in them as Lazio. They've sort of fallen off the wagon. Lazio, and I think Atalanta knocked them out of the Coppa Italia. Last I checked, I stand to be corrected, because the first leg had ended 2-2. I don't remember exactly how the second leg, finished, but I think it is Inter Milan versus Atalanta for that Coppa Italia, final that will be coming. But yeah, Lazio, I have sort of remained largely mid-table. I remember the time when they had Simone Inzaghi. They were really, really very competitive, and they're trying to compete for the title, but they're like they digressed into a Roma of some sort. That's why they are also eighth. Poor performance. Poor performance indeed. Okay, guys. Do we need to go elsewhere? Okay, let's run through the other results from the rest of because from the rest of Europe. The reason for that is because the Mauricio Sarri was always a good tactician. Yeah, he's always been good, but you see, sometimes managers are as good as the players they have, and just like the recruitment is across majority of the Italian clubs, it's not any different from that of Lazio. So, how many elite players do you know in that Lazio team that are really sounding? You know, I remember the last time I checked, one of them was Nuno Tavares. He was, you know how they love playing with predominantly with the back three. So then he plays as a wing back, and then he used to play that really flank well, and his assists numbers were looking good. So, but essentially, it was that. So today is Sevilla. Now, coming into the weekend, 8 teams in the Spanish La Liga were all still under the threat of relegation. Elche and Deportivo Alves ended 1-1. Sevilla beat up against Espanyol by 2-1. Atletico Madrid lost at home against Celta Vigo by 0-0, while Real Sociedad and Real Betis just shared the spoils in a 2-all draw. Now, the significance of that result for Sevilla is that it increases their chances of survival, of avoiding the drop. I think one team that has been confirmed for the drop is Rio Oviedo. Those ones are already in the drop zone. But Levante, in 19th place, have 35 points. By the time we came before the kickoff of match day 35, the difference of points between a 12th place team and the 19th team was only 3 points. So, meaning, with 4 games left to play, at the time, all those teams were under the threat of relegation. So Sevilla managed to win against Espanyol today. And remember, and now they've gone above Espanyol. So they are on 40 points. Oh, apologies on the internet glitch there for a second. Tavares is being benched nowadays. Wow. Anyways, so what you have, these are the teams that face potential relegation. Sevilla from 12th place, because they are only 4 points above Levante, who are in 19th place. Jesus Christ. This is a bit chaotic. So Sevilla, Espanyol, Valencia, Elche, Mallorca, Girona, Deportivo Alves, and Levante are all potential candidates for relegation, with 3 games to spare and 4 games for some teams. And then we have our Getafe in 7th place, who do not score goals. But at least they are not under the threat of relegation. But what's his name? Jose Bodalas will be leaving Getafe at the end of the season. Jose Bodalas will be leaving Getafe. In the German Bundesliga, Augsburg beat up against Gladbach by 3-1. Hoffenheim beat up against Werder Bremen by 0-0. RB Leipzig beat up against St. Pauli by 2-1. VfB Stuttgart beat up against Bayer Leverkusen by 3-1, while Bayern Munich have just beaten up against Wolfsburg by 1-0. Bayern Munich have a crazy goal difference in the German Bundesliga, but of course they are already champions. And Michael Olise's goal decided the tie after Harry Kane had a penalty, I think, in the first half. So then in the French League 1, yesterday, RC Lens won, I think, by 0-0 to move within 3 points behind the table leaders, PSG. So majority of their games are going to be played tomorrow. Then in the Italian Serie A, Udinese beat up against Cagliari by 2-0. Lazio lost to Inter 3-0. Juventus just beat up against Lecce by 1-0. But of course, Inter Milan are champions, so the rest are fighting for places. In as far as that table is concerned. AC Milan have been a bit off of it lately, and it's appalling. But Napoli second on the table, Juventus are third, AC Milan fourth, Roma fifth, Como sixth, and Atalanta 7th. Now, Como want to qualify for European football, so they need to win tomorrow. When they return to action, they need to win at least when they return to action. Okay. So Glad says, at least Bayern lastly makes our money to be taken. Oh, at last, Bayern lastly makes our money to be taken. They go for an under. Bayern will disappoint you. After 1-1 draw in midweek and then another 1-0 victory for a team that has been scoring for fun the entire season. I understand people placing a bit of an over. I would understand entirely, but it's a disappointment. Anyways, so those are the results from the major 5 leagues across Europe. In as far as Saturday was concerned, of course, the action will proceed tomorrow. Let's see if we have any Vlahovic scores opener in the first minute. Now, by the way, I feel like Juventus have made Dusan Vlahovic rot, and yet even Jonathan David has not been an instant hit ever since they signed him. He's not been that instant hit. A lot of times goals have come from elsewhere. Winston McKennie, sometimes if it is a penalty, Manuel Locatelli will be up to it. Pierre Karuru, not a very usual goal scorer, but he's popped up with a goal or two there. Like throughout the entire season, it felt like they've lacked that outright goal scorer who carries them over and above. And yet, ordinarily, Juventus usually have that sort of player for that bangs in the goals. But this time around, it's not felt that way. It's not felt that way. Okay, what's to come? Maybe tomorrow, what not to miss. Meanwhile, I don't know. Kenan Yildiz is going to be a hot cake this summer. It will depend on how he performs at the World Cup with Turkey. But I suspect he will be a hot cake for teams this summer. And then Winston McKennie, by the way, ever since he joined Juventus, he's looked like a very, very much improved and different player. Remember, he was being played as a holding midfielder before joining Juventus. Then Cop Miners has had an okay season. Lloyd Kelly, an okay season. Okay, so tomorrow, in terms of Spanish La Liga, of course, the El Clasico is the big game to look forward to. But then you have Mallorca against Villarreal, Bilbao against Valencia. That ordinarily will be a good game, but Valencia are a team of yesterday. They are. Somebody recently said that Sevilla are the Tottenham of Spanish La Liga. Maybe we should add Valencia to that same list because they all fall in the same bracket. Vlahovic made a bad decision to stay when Arsenal wanted him. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But remember, they initially wanted him when he was still at Fiorentina and he chose Juventus. But nonetheless, they still came in for him and I think he was reluctant to leave. He thought he was going to be the next darling. Feto says, is you an Arsenal fan? Yes, I'm an Arsenal fan. Thanks for asking. And thanks for joining. I'm trying to read your name. I'm afraid of mispronouncing it. You said that jersey is too cold, bro. Too cold? Oh, too old or too cold? Whichever it is. Anyways, but thank you guys for joining. I kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if you don't mind. Why are you wearing that away color blood? It's one of the kits in my locker room. So what I've not acquired an Arsenal jersey in ages, by the way. You see, somebody loves it. For you, you're dissing it. Somebody loves it. Thank you. Anyways, okay. In regards to what's to come tomorrow, Real Oviedo will be up against Getafe. That is in the Spanish La Liga. But the El Clasico is the biggest game to watch, of course, there. Then in the German Bundesliga, Hamburg SV. Hamburg have Arsenal's Fabio Vieira and they took Albert Sambilo Konga. So they will be up against Freiburg. Cologne will take on Heidenheim. Union Berlin will be away to Mainz 05. Then in the Italian Serie A, Como will be playing away to Hellas Verona in the early kickoff at 1:30 p.m. Then at 4 p.m., Cremonese will take on Pisa. Fiorentina will be up against Genoa. While Parma will be at home against AC Roma. AC Milan at a quarter to 10 p.m. will be up against Atlanta. There in the French League One, Monaco will take on Lille. Angers will take on Strasbourg. Auxerre will be up against Nice. Le Havre will be up against Olympique Marseille. Métis will take on Lorient. Paris Saint-Germain will take on Brest, while Stade Rennes will take on Paris FC, and Toulouse will take on Lyon. So all those games will kick off at 10 p.m. In the French League One. So in case you're interested, do not miss catching them, at least at your most opportune time, if you can catch them. But of course, like I said, El Clasico is going to be the main event for Sunday in the late kickoffs. Sir Ryan says he puts the Hammers of West Ham, and then he puts the UK flag. Hi, Sir Ryan. Good to have you on the broadcast. Then Feto says, nah, it's tough, but I had to pause and focus on the logo to confirm I ain't been watching much football recently. Okay. Best of luck for the final, fam, but it is going to be a tough final against PSG. They've been smashing it. Yeah, they've been smashing it. They've gone through the competition. I mean, sometimes I watch them and when I remember watching them in the playoffs of the Champions League when they were up against Monaco, they won the first leg by 3-2, coming from 2-0 down. But that was because Monaco got a red card in that one, just as much as they did in the reverse fixture for they got a red card in that one. But it was a 2-2 draw. I look back at that team and I think they are a beatable team. You can't beat them. There's a way to beat them, So they were that. And then when you also remember the first leg of the round of 16, when they beat Chelsea for 75 minutes, it was a close tie. For 75 minutes, it was a close tie. Give us some predictions for today's games. Predictions for today's games. In the Premier League, okay, let's start there. For predictions. Do I have my mojo for predicting? Sometimes I get them so wrong that I give up on predicting games. Okay. Aston Villa Burnley, I'll go Aston Villa 3-1 Burnley. Crystal Palace Everton, I'm going to go Everton 2-1. Nottingham Forest versus Newcastle. Difficult game. Nottingham Forest were shambolic on Thursday. Do they bounce back? They still do not have Morgan Gibbs-White. Newcastle have not been consistent all throughout the season. Yes, they beat up against Brighton last weekend by 3-1, but they've lacked the consistency. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in that one. West Ham versus Arsenal. I went for West Ham 1-2 Arsenal. Feto says Madrid gonna bank 3-0 to Barcelona. Hopefully, okay. Then in the other leagues, let's see. Mallorca Villarreal. That's a difficult game. It's a difficult one. Mallorca are not that bad, but Villarreal are that good. Marcelino is going to be leaving at the end of the season. That was confirmed. So, difficult game. Mallorca. But I'll go with Mallorca a bit stubborn, but I'll go with Villarreal to win 3-1. Bilbao against Valencia. Bilbao have been poor all throughout the season. They've been so poor and pathetic. No wonder Ernesto Valverde already announced that he will be leaving the club at the end of the season, and they've appointed former Dortmund manager. What's his name? Edin Terzic as their new head coach. He will be taking over there. So, but Valencia fighting against relegation. Bilbao should be a beatable team, but you never know what Valencia will turn out. I'll go for a 1-1 draw in that one. Getafe against Real Oviedo. I'll go Getafe 1, Oviedo 0. Barcelona versus Real Madrid. I'll go Barcelona 3-2. Spurs versus Leeds. Jesus Christ. Spurs versus Leeds. Difficult game. Leeds can turn it on. Spurs have all the motivation in the world. They've won 2 consecutive games for the first time in 2026 against Wolves by 0-0, and somehow against Aston Villa by 2-1. First of all, I'd expect for both teams to score, for those of you that are for the betting tips. But they're so poor at home. Tottenham are so poor at home. I'll go for a 2-2 draw. I hope my mind does not change by Monday. But for now, I'll stick with the 2-2 draw. Tottenham won the first leg by 2-1, and it's a fixture that they know how to win. What's the motivation? No, Tottenham. Let me go Tottenham to win. Tottenham 2-1. Tottenham to win 2-1. Yeah. Although a draw wouldn't surprise me, but let me give them a win. I feel they know what's at stake and they have it in sight. Although, and then also, it has a dependence to the Arsenal game, how that result goes. If West Ham somehow beat Arsenal or pick a point against Arsenal, then it will make it a bit more nervous for them. Okay, I think those are the predictions that I can give you. I don't want to just go out on a limb of faith when it comes to these other teams playing. Como against Hellas Verona, I'll tip Como to go and win. Maybe by like 2-0. Como to win 2-0. I wouldn't be surprised if AC Milan and Atalanta is a draw. I wouldn't be surprised for that. Guys, it's been a fruitful 2 hours. Allow me call it a night. It's 1:19 hours. I've not done a 2-hour long broadcast that is not a watch along in a long time. I've done 1 hour and 40 minutes, 1 hour and 30. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gladiator. It's been an honor having you on the forum. And I hope you can make this a routine and join me. Usually our broadcasts every morning, that is Monday to Saturday. Monday at 9 a.m. Between Monday to Friday, we do usually around 9 a.m. That's when we do the live broadcast. Then on weekend, on Saturday, it comes at 10 a.m. Then for the night broadcasts, all come at 11 p.m. East African time. Usually, it's the ideal time. But apart from Friday we come at 9 p.m. To do the weekend previews and stuff like that. So those are our timelines. Otherwise, if you've subscribed and turned your notifications on, you'll be notified as soon as we go live. Somebody says, oh, Saumia is back with us. OMG. Hi. Saumia, it's been a while. Spurs playmaker injured. They might face a hard game to crack. Yeah. Leeds is a stubborn side, a very stubborn side. And Daniel Fekir, for the first time, I've watched him this season and he's not been tactically as stubborn because he's one guy that wanted to stick to his fluid football, and oftentimes it cost his team when they ended up conceding too many goals. You remember when he was still in charge of Norwich City, and that Norwich City that had Emi Buendia, then it had that right back that even Bayern Munich wanted to sign. Was called Aaron? Was he called Aaron something? So he was always that stubborn guy. And even at the start of this season, he wanted to be that guy. And then he woke up early and he started playing a back three, then congesting the midfield in a way, and their results started getting better. And at one time, they had an 11 unbeaten run, I think, of games. But many of those were being draws, but they were grinding it out. So I wouldn't be surprised if they get a draw. I wouldn't be surprised, but I would want to think that Tottenham's motivation and encouragement from their previous 2 wins should be enough to motivate them to win a game of football at home, where they rarely win a game of football. They struggle to win games at home. And even their last 2 victories have been away from home. Their last game at home was against Brighton, and they almost won it, but they conceded a late equalizer against Brighton. So let's wait and see. On that one. So, okay, guys, allow me to wish you a blessed night. Let's do this again tomorrow at 11 p.m. East African time. Bye bye for now and stay blessed. Thank you so much.